Court judge attempted bribing an NDC MP to vote for Professor Michael Quay in speakership election. He has written officially to the Asawase MP who made the allegation, asking him to avail himself.
I have confirmation that the Chief Justice is looking into it and has written to the parliamentarian to make himself available.
Former Chief Justice Sophia Apawu, who disclosed this, is upset about the allegation, describing it as bizarre.
There are 17 people you have defamed in that casual manner, but you're talking about only one person. So there are 16 people who have been wrongly done by.
I'll bring you that exclusive interview here on Top Story, and much later also we'll stay in Parliament, where the NPP caucus there says it is now clear it will hold the leadership of various committees after the Speaker determining the NPP platform constitutes majority group. Meanwhile, the NPP says the Asin North MP cannot hold himself out as such because of injunction on him from the Cape Coast High Court. That and more here on Top Story, brought to you by Bell Aqua Mineral Water and Vodafone. The future is exciting. Ready? I am Emefa Apawu. And tonight, Chief Justice Senin Yeboah has begun probing allegations a Supreme Court judge attempted bribing an NDC MP to vote for Professor Michael Quay in speakership election. According to the former Chief Justice, Sophia Apawu, he has written officially to the Asawase MP Mutaka Mubarak, who first made the allegation, asking him to avail himself. The NDC Chief Whip claimed on the probe on the Joy News channel that a justice of the Supreme Court had attempted influencing an NDC MP to vote for the MPP's pick for the contest. Listen.
I heard
you
my
were scared
colleague, Honorable Chairman Sabu talking about way bribe. I mean, I thought that was very unfortunate because that was what they did in actual sense. They were reaching out to our members and they were offering them all manner of things. Let me tell you, there was one that was led by, so shamefully, a Supreme Court judge called a colleague, lady, telling her what they will give her. She has children, they will help her take care of her children. She can take fuel from a filling station for the 4 years. And the time he made those calls, we are looking at all those things. But the sad thing is that if you are a majority leader, we have just come from election. With all these crises, we were in the opposition for 4 years. How could we have gotten money to be bribing those who are in government, who every one of them receives so much money to support his or her campaign? We, those who were struggling to prosecute a campaign, who have surplus money to be given to
the Supreme Court. Are you able to give us further details? Because it's a serious allegation.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That not even one person, a number of them. But you see, like I also, the game is a game of evidence. So you need to put them together before you can. I'm sure maybe not too long to come, we may have a press conference on that with some more details. Yes, on all those who were being contacted and what was being offering them and all that.
And that's my interview with Mr. Mutaka Mubarak, Asawase MP and NDC Chief Whip in Parliament on the probe 2 weeks ago. Subsequently, he's been speaking to our parliamentary correspondent, insisting that they have evidence to back that claim and that he welcomed a probe as well. But former Chief Justice of Ghana, Madam Sophia Apawu, says she's upset about the accusation by MP for Asawase Mutaka Mubarak. Now, she says that the accusation by the NP has defamed other innocent judges of the Supreme Court who have built reputation for themselves over the period. Speaking exclusively to my colleague Latif Idris, Madame Sophia Apawu strongly refuted the accusation and described same as bizarre. Listen.
Well, I think they must be very upset. If I was still there, I'd be upset. I'm not there anymore, but I'm still upset at the very thought that that kind of accusation will be made. I don't like accusations like that. It's like throwing a bucket of dirty water at people and you were aiming at somebody, but you just threw it and it dirties up everybody. If it's true, be bold. If you're going to talk about it, if you're going to mention it, if you're going to bring it into the public domain, say everything that has to be said. You don't have to. I know of a Supreme Court judge. There are, how many of them now? Of them. There are 17 people you have defamed in that casual manner. But you're talking about only one person. So there are 16 people who have been wrongly done by. I have confirmation that the Chief Justice is looking into it and has written to the parliamentarian to make himself available to produce the facts. Yes.
Apart from this, what else do you expect to see from the Chief Justice going forward into this wild allegation?
There's nothing the Chief Justice can do beyond, well, he can write a complaint to the Speaker but that will be, that depends on his methodology. After the inquiry the judiciary wants to do, after that, then he can, if it's found out that it was not true, or the person never turned up, or the person was not able to substantiate the accusation, then he will write to the Speaker and demand something to be, some disciplinary action to be taken against that person. You don't. The Lord doesn't give you the platform to be heard. Every word you say to be heard, for you to use in a wanton manner, right? So that's it. I don't think it's true. I choose to believe it's not true. What was he supposed to be bribing the lady with?
That's the bribe was to get her to vote for Professor Mike or Aaron Michael Quinn.
The right thing, no. What is the valuable consideration he's giving? What? Money?
They were going to support the education of her kids going forward.
Parliamentarian is to be supported by a justice of the Supreme Court. Really? What money does the judiciary have? The whole thing is bizarre. Really, it is. And I'll be very, very surprised if it's true. Yeah. Does it sound plausible to you? Really, really, objectively, does it sound plausible to you? It's.
Some are arguing that the judges also have private lives. So maybe in the private life of this particular judge, there's the possibility of him or her requesting for this.
But what has who the Speaker is got to do with an individual justice of any court? What's it got to do? Maybe he's a personal friend, but whether he's a Speaker or not, what difference does it make to the life of a Supreme Court judge? Supreme Court judge, you're up there.
That's a former Chief Justice, Madam Sophia Akufu, in that exclusive interview with my colleague Latif Idris. Well, let's talk a bit more about this probe. And like I said, we'll stay a while longer in Parliament because there's some developments there as well. Parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo joins me in studio. Joseph, what have we picked up regarding this probe that Madam Sophia Akufu talks about?
So we've been checking with the NDC side in Parliament. You recall that Muntaka Mubarak has repeatedly made the point that he's ready, their side remains ready to provide the necessary evidence to back any such allegation once the Chief Justice decides to institute the necessary investigation into this. Our checks with the NDC side indicates that, well, they all say that they've heard of this said claim of a formal communication to Muntaka Mubarak, asking him to produce the evidence. But sources close to his office make the point that they haven't seen the letter officially, which will then inform a decision on him then beginning to put together the evidence that he insists is readily available to then hand over to the office of the Chief Justice as far as the commencement of the probe is concerned. You know, Parliament went on break from last week, Friday. They are expected to resume sitting 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And the expectation is that from tomorrow, when himself and the leaders return to the House, that's when if this said communication has arrived in Parliament, it will be brought officially to the attention, and then they will begin the necessary processes in terms of going ahead to respond to the request of the Chief Justice.
Okay, and we've been checking from the office of the Speaker as well, and nothing has come up just yet. The persons who work there, at least the Public Affairs Directorate, they tell us that today they haven't been really active there, so they are yet to cite that letter. Once they do, they would let us know. But you have more?
Well, we are just waiting for whatever would happen in that regard. You know, questions are coming up about what could possibly happen. This was an issue that you are drawing attention to earlier. If there are concerns that the said MP may have probably
The punitive actions that Madame Sophia Kufu was talking about. What will happen?
So one way around it, if the judges at the Supreme Court feel scandalized and they would want some action of a sort taken, is to draw the attention of Parliament to that, and this is something that the Privileges Committee of Parliament could possibly deal with. When you read the Standing Orders of Parliament, Standing Order 30, for example, talks about complaints that people could make, and there's a reference there that in all cases, when it comes to actions that need to be taken with regards to breaches of privileges, because they are held in very much high esteem, this is something that can be brought to the attention of Parliament for the Privileges Committee to possibly look into.
That's in the event if it does not have the evidence to back the bribery allegations.
Precisely so. And if the Chief Justice's office, and in this case the judiciary, feels that this is scandalous to the extent that they would want some action of a sort taken against the MP who made this allegation.
And there's a lot more happening in Parliament. This time, the NPP caucus says it is now clear that it will hold the leadership of various committees in the House after the Speaker determined the NPP plus Formina constitutes the majority group. Now, Speaker Alban Bagbin on Friday read a letter from the Formina MP who expresses willingness to do business with the NPP side of the House. The Speaker then declared them the majority parliamentary group. The NDC insists because of the 137 equal number of MPs for both NDC and NPP, chairmanship of committees have to be split. But Deputy Leader of the NPP caucus, Alexander Afenyo-Markin, says the Speaker's declaration gives them the upper hand.
The Speaker has resolved it finally. Moving forward, it means that business will be done in this House with clarity of thought that the NPP caucus constitute the majority and will therefore lead in the constitution of formation of committees as per our current standing orders. On behalf of the caucus leadership, we want to assure the nearly 7 million Ghanaians who voted for NPP that their wishes and interests will be protected as we go about doing government business. And want to also take this opportunity to assure our colleagues that we're going to have a parliament of cooperation. We are going to build consensus. It is not a winner takes all. This position has been echoed by His Excellency, the President. This position has this morning been echoed by the Right Honorable Speaker. Our leader, the majority leader, Honorable Oseche Mensah Bonsu, has underscored the same position. So we're going to work together for the common good of Mother Ghana.
That's the Deputy Leader of the NPP caucus, Alexander Afenyo-Markin. Now, so far, only one committee has been formed in the House, the Selection Committee. That's it. Now, the 20-member committee chaired by Alban Bagbin will determine who forms part of which committee and who chairs. On this committee, the NPP has 10 members and the NDC has 9. Deputy Leader of the NDC caucus insists the majority parliamentary group cannot claim leadership on all other committees. Listen.
We have to chair the committees on 50-50 basis. We have equal numbers in Parliament, 137, 137. So every committee, the numbers will be shared equally. For instance, if you have 20-member committee, we have to have 10. If we have, let's say 25-member committee, we can decide to give them 13, we will take 12. But even that one, we will insist that they take the number 13 for 2 years. Then we'll come back and take 13 for 2 years. Because the whole issue is about equal sharing. Now, there are committees that we think that should be chaired by the government party. For instance, Public Finance Committee, Defense, Foreign Affairs. Those are committees that must be chaired by what? The governing party. and then committee that will be chaired by the opposition party, that is Public Accounts Committee, Government Assurances, and then subsidiary. The rest we have to share is what? Equally, 50-50. The chair half, we chair half.
That's the Deputy Leader of the NDC caucus, James Klute Aveji there. Parliamentary Affairs Correspondent Elton Brobe joins me in studio as we start working out these committees and all. And Elton, I'm sure, apart from the selection committee, like I said, that's the only committee that has been formed so far. You've been picking up a lot around the formation of these committees. What exactly have you picked up?
Well, Emefa, I'm sure you're aware that Parliament, the 7th Parliament, was unable to approve the revised standing orders. So the document they are working with in this 8th Parliament is still the old standing orders. Until they are able to come to a decision to approve the revised standing orders, we will have to stick with the old standing orders. Now, Parliament, they are masters of their own rules, so they can overlook some provisions in their own standing orders and make a way, especially when the numbers appears not to favor any other side. Now, what I'm picking is that President Akufo-Addo will, in the coming days, meet with the leadership of Parliament, the Speaker, leaders from both sides, in a way to see how best government and the legislature can work together in terms of government bringing their business and getting Parliament to back it. You know, government has a lot of business to do in this first quarter. The nomination of ministers and then vetting, subsequent approval, and then the presentation of the 2021 budget. Remember, the budget we have now, the appropriation only will end at the end of March.
Okay.
It's just a 3-month period. So there should be a mechanism where the president nominees can go through vetting. If they are successful, the House will approve of them, and then the finance minister will have to now present a new budget before the expiration of this appropriation, which we are enjoying right now. So my information at this meeting is more like president trying to get them to back government position in terms of getting Parliament to back government business on the floor, and also look at some of the challenges that they are having in terms of going forward and how best government can assist, get Parliament to work in the overall interests of the country. So that is the information I am picking right now. Because currently, if you look at it, apart from the Public Accounts Committee and the Subsidiary Legislation Committee, these are the only committees that, according to the existing the existing standing orders, is chaired by a member from the minority side. Apart from that, all other committees is chaired by the majority side. The standing orders is making provision, for example, Committee on Government Assurances to be chaired by a minority MP instead of a majority MP. These are some of the issues that they are looking at. But because, like I said earlier on, Parliament, they are masters of their own rules. They may, in the existence of an old standing order, look at the possibility of overlooking some of the provisions and get the House to work so that both sides can cooperate and get the business going.
As it stands now, both sides are sharply divided on this particular issue. You've heard James Klute Aveji and, of course, Afenyo Marking a while ago, whilst he is insisting that they would not split the committees. James Klute Aveji is also saying in that interview that that has to be done because they both, as far as they are concerned, they both have the same numbers in Parliament.
Yeah. Because what I'm picking is that, this matter may be put to rest either today or tomorrow, hopefully after the meeting, because government is ready, or the president is ready to write to the speaker with his first list of cabinet ministers for the speaker to refer the government communication to the appointments committee. But he can only do so when there is a membership constituting the appointments committee of Parliament. That's how come
which is yet to be done.
This list is delaying and government or president is unable to take it to Parliament. So this meeting, my information is that may resolve all outstanding issues and get the House to work and compose the committees for work to start.
Okay, that's a Presidential Affairs Correspondent Elton Brobe, ears and eyes on the ground on this particular issue whilst Parliament takes that decision to start constitution of the various committees, including the Appointments Committee. Then we can know who goes where in terms of ministerial appointments. But we'll stay a while longer in Parliament. In a related development this time, Deputy Leader of the NPP caucus, Alexander Afenyo Marking, says the NDC MP for Asin North, James Quayson, cannot hold himself out as such because of court injunction on him. Now, he says legally the NDC has only 136 seats in Parliament.
As we speak today, the NDC side is supposed to be 136 because there is an interlocutory order injuncting the Asin North MP. This order was communicated to him by the clerk of the House. I raised it on the House floor. The NDC leader, Honorable Harun Idrisu, also spoke to the issue and said that he, as a leader, has explained the consequences of the members' actions to him, and he has elected to disobey court process. So, in real terms, the NDC has 136 as we speak today. But we have left that matter for the lawyers of the applicant in that suit to deal with it. So I think it's clear. There's nothing like any ambiguity.
You heard there Alexander Afenyo-Marking saying that the NDC legally has 136 seats and hoping that the NDC MP for Asin North, James Kwesing, cannot hold himself out as such because of a court injunction on him. We've been trying to speak to the lawyers of Mr. James Kwesing, lawyer Abraham Amaleba, and also for the petitioner as well, Mr. Gary Enemako. Mr. Enemako says they are unable to put out their strategy just yet on what happens after that injunction was defied by the Asin North MP, James Kwesing, on the inauguration day. But we've been joined on the phone by our correspondent, Richard Kojonyako, and whilst we wait for that substantive case to be heard and what exactly the action will be of the court since that injunction was not upheld by the Asin North MP himself. Richard, you've been interacting with both the petitioner and the NPP on the ground there. What exactly is it that you're picking up as we wait for the substantive case to be heard?
Well, so I was in the constituency, the Senate constituency, and then there is a cloud of uncertainty. They do not know what really is happening to their member of parliament, whether they should still recognize him as a member of parliament or they shouldn't as a result of the court injunction. I've also been interacting with members of the NDC here. The indication, in fact, it is not really clear, but the indication is that they are hoping to set aside the injunction that was placed on the member of parliament before even the substantive case is visited. And so that is what I have been visiting. But I have also been engaging the NPP on the ground, and they seem not to tell us anything about the direction the case is going. They are keeping everything close to their chest. They do not want to give any information out.
Well, so it appears there's some uncertainty on the ground, but have you spotted the MP himself? And whilst you were in the constituency, what exactly is the talk around him? Has he been speaking? What exactly has he been saying?
Well, so he visited the constituency when Parliament was on recess, when they went for a week break. He was in the constituency. A lot of the NDC folks visited him. They had some interactions with him. But still, they do not know. They do that with some kind of uncertainty because they do not know. They also have the court injunction in mind. They feel that, well, one cannot disregard a court order like that. But in another vein, they still feel that once he's been sworn in, he can go ahead and then do his work pending the visiting or the settlement of the substantive case itself.
But we know when the substantive case itself is supposed to be held.
Well, so we do not know. In fact, when I heard rumors of any action on the case, I even thought that it was a response from the respondent in this particular matter, that is from the Asin North MP's camp. But it turned out to not to be true because we've not really seen anything like that. We've not also heard anything like that. We've not also even heard anything like that from the lawyers from the respondent.
And for the purposes of clarity, and the substantive case will be about the dual citizenship of Mr. Kwesing, right?
Exactly. So the judge in his ruling indicated that because of the grave nature of the allegations leveled against Mr. Kwesing with regard to the dual citizenship and the other things vis-a-vis perjury, because what the petitioners were seeking to do was to tell the court that Mr. Kwesing lied when he filed the processes for the elections that he eventually won. And so they are also counting perjury as well as the dual citizenship. So the judge in his ruling indicated that it was a matter so grave that some time would have to be set aside for the substantive case to be visited and then the case to be dealt with.
That's our correspondent, Richard Kujonyako. Thank you very much, Richard. But Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is still with me in the studios, and we're picking information that an appeal has been filed against the injunction.
Precisely, that's why we gather that. So the point is that, recall that earlier the lawyers for the NDC candidate, who is now the MP, had indicated they had tried to file a stay of execution just the day that the said injunction was actually placed on the MP. And allegedly, the court wasn't receptive in terms of accepting the processes, that to allow for the stay of execution. The explanation is that a possible stay of execution has been overtaken with time because he's gone to Parliament, he's been sworn in, he's doing his business there. So as at yesterday, the appeal against the substantive injunction, even before they get into the main case, was filed, and that's what the lawyers for the DCMP are seeking to then go argue and ask that the appeals court actually throws out the said injunction that had been placed on him so he can go about his business, even until the time that the substantive case itself will be determined right here in the same high court.
Okay, so we're hoping to speak to the lawyer for the Mr. James Kwesing, the Asin North MP, James Kwesing. That's Abraham Amalema. It's been unsuccessful. He had agreed to be part of this, but unfortunately, we're unable to raise him just yet. But that's when we do, subsequently, we'll hear from him. But of course, Gary Nimaku's side, who's the lawyer for the petitioners, have declined speaking to us on this particular issue on grounds that they would not want to give off their strategy going forward in dealing with this particular case. But that'll be all for Top Story for tonight. Also live on myjoyonline.com, brought to you by Vodafone. The future is exciting already, and Bella Quat Mineral Water. News Night starts right after this.